Hi everybody. Welcome once again to a Low on Health year-end review. Basically what I like to do is at the end of every year kind of culminate everything that I've played and watched and whatnot besides gaming that I've done. And of course a big thing that I'm into, as a lot of you do know, is anime, which of course is Japanese animation. I'm a big fan of. Of course I worked at Anime Nation for about 7 years with a bunch of group of people who are still considered my friends and I keep in touch with regularly. And I still do watch anime, and at a certain point I started cataloging all my anime, and this batch is one of my first kind of articles for Low on Health, which I basically took all my 2007 anime and kind of just grouped it together. And now with a lot of things that I do, kind of the criteria for me reviewing something and kind of grouping it into stuff is if I've watched the anime that year. Or I stopped watching it that year, or just kind of watched enough of it to get kind of a good idea what it was, and if I didn't like it, I stopped it. Same thing I do with gaming. So even if an anime came out 3 or 4 years prior to that, domestically or originally, whenever I watched it is what year I categorize it in, and that's just kind of how I've always done things. I don't want to try to backtrack and go, oh, this wasn't that great, but for this year, but compared to last year, I just group it all together in that current year. The stuff that I watched or played or read or listened to, that's what I group it into. So this is basically my 2007 Anime of the Year breakdown. So let's go ahead and take a look at these real quick. For 2007, I watched a good chunk of anime. I want to say I watched maybe easily more than a dozen shows. In which case I did a nice little collage for most of them and whatnot. And then I kind of have my breakdown, and this also basically kind of a little disclaimer of this is what I did. But my number one anime of the year was ZegaPain. In which case, for some reason, I really, really much enjoyed ZegaPain. I like the whole kind of idea that your world gets reset after X amount of, weeks, months, and then everybody kind of forgets, but you don't. And it has a nice little anime, mecha kind of slide to it, a nice little kind of personal identity, what is real, what is not real type of stuff. And for some reason, it really struck a chord with me, and I really much enjoyed ZegaPain. Number two, of course, is Death Note, which, of course, everybody that knows anime knows Death Note, and it was a really tremendous, great series. Very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed it much not just for its supernatural elements, but of course like kind of the rules that they put in place for the actual Death Note. But I really like kind of just the not the rivalry slash camaraderie, kind of the partnership and the friendship between Light and L. Just kind of it's kind of standoffish. You don't really trust them, but you're kind of your best friend type of. I just really enjoyed that type of atmosphere, that type of chemistry between them, those two, and I really just kind of like the whole undermining thing and just trying to stay one step above them and using logic to its extreme. I really much enjoyed that, and of course the series does kind of take a turn downhill for where, of course, spoiler, L dies, but at this point it's over 3 years old. If you don't know that, who cares? But that was kind of spoiler. One little thing about Death Note 2 is that they did a live action movie, 2 movies for it. I really much enjoyed those 2 live action movies too for some reason. Just really much like the whole Death Note mythos, and really good series. Next there, of course, is Gurren Lagann, which is your extremely over the top type of anime. In which case, it starts off very small and then quickly builds itself up, and it has just great characters. Great just style for Gurren Lagann, a really great anime series, and I really much enjoyed it, and definitely recommend Gurren Lagann to everybody. Some things aren't for everybody, but Gurren Lagann is definitely for any good anime fan. They have to enjoy it because it's just that great of a film. Of course, then you have Melancholy of Haruhi. I'm not even gonna bother. I'm gonna butcher a lot of these names, but of Haruhi. In which case, this is the first season. In which case, I enjoyed it. We all know what it was. Kind of zany, kind of out there, and of course, most people that know I like Kyon, which is the kind of male lead, I guess, of the series. I really much enjoyed his character, just kind of put in situations and he deals with them and just kind of gets by. And I do like the individual characters. Next up here we got Moonlight Mile, which is a nice hard sci-fi anime. I very much enjoyed this one because once again it kind of almost follows the story of 2 friends just going after their dream and whatnot. And they kind of have this same share the same dream, and they basically take 2 different paths to get to it. In which case, I just love its hard science. One goes to be basically a fighter pilot for the U.S., so he can basically fly spacecraft, and the other one does construction, because there's going to be a lot of space construction. And it's really interesting just to see how they both kind of go up and how they both rise up the ranks to get to where they want to go, which is kind of outer space and the next frontier. It's nice, and it's a hard sci-fi, so it's realistic, and I really much enjoyed that. Next up, we got Dennou Coil, which is kind of, the ones with the anime with the kids with the glasses. I really much enjoyed this series, more or less because it's interesting to follow what might happen if you actually have these like little VR glasses that put, augmented reality glasses, essentially is what they are, that put an overlay over the world where you can kind of see stuff, interact and play games, and what kind of crazy kind of, Ghost in the Machine stuff can happen through that. So I really much enjoyed that. Next is Genshiken, old and new. I watched basically both of the series, the original and then the new one, and I just love Genshiken. It's a great little series about, anime fans, otaku, and their lifestyle in Japan, and kind of a sign of the times. Kind of the early one, you can see it's kind of 80ish, and the newer one's kind of the 2000ish. You can kind of see different little nuances here and there. But I really much enjoyed the series. For any anime fan, once again, Genshiken, both of them, is just a great series, and I highly recommend it. Just because it's nice to see how otaku live over there and how they kind of they're in their daily life. It's a slice of life anime, and I really much enjoyed it. Edo Rocket is a nice little series. I mean, a basic premise. Fireworks are of course outlawed, so you have a fireworks maker. That's what a kid. That's his dream to do fireworks, and you throw little space aliens here and there, and you got a little series. Not I can't recommend to everybody, but it was enjoyable to watch. Next is Sayonara Sensei, which of course is uber stylistic and a nice little just kind of character with a bunch of series with a bunch of just like unique character, a bunch of unique school children, and their kind of little nuances, and it's just very particular. I do believe it's a Shaft anime, so if you kind of understand what kind of stylistic weird stuff they do, it was a good series, and I definitely enjoyed it. Then you have Tokyo Tribes 2, which is kind of one of those series that's kind of out of nowhere. I enjoy Tokyo Tribes 2 a lot for some reason. I definitely like that whole vibe of kind of different gangs and different groups, and each of them being stylized, and just kind of the different Yakuza-ish kind of elements, the gang elements in Japan. And it's just different, and I doubt it's an accurate representation, but I thought it was really cool. It was very stylized. You kind of had the underlining friendship, betrayal type thing going, which of course I always love. And I kind of like, not the thug life, but I kind of like that type of just sensibility to it. I like that type of just fat beats and just the style of it. I really much enjoyed it. A lot of people, that never got picked up domestically, I know that. But if you are thinking about it, definitely Tokyo Tribes 2. I enjoyed it. I would say I enjoyed it immensely for how bad it could have been. And of course, in 2007, I watched a lot more anime than I do now. So I actually watched, like I said, over a dozen, in which case I'm just going to quickly go over the other ones that I watched. Of course, I got Bleach and Naruto, which are self-explanatory. Darker Than Black, once again, I enjoy Darker Than Black because, once again, it has a really unique universe with basically these people that can use special abilities, but they kind of have I forgot what they call it, and unfortunately I'm killing myself by not knowing that, but they have basically, in order to have that power, they kind of have to pay a price, either by eating a bunch, or pulling their hair, or eating bugs, or drinking. Or every time they do something, they have to do like a price to pay for it. Kind of I forgot what it was called. This is really killing me, and I'm sorry, but it's just really cool to see that universe. And they made a second series, which I'll probably talk about later. But I very much enjoyed Darker Than Black because you have different characters with different abilities, and they're all kind of stylized. Toward the Terra was an interesting little film. I believe this was a series that was remade off of like an 80s series. It was okay, a fantasy space kind of opera, if you were. Love Complex I enjoyed because, once again, the slice of life love tale, which usually I don't dig these types of animes that much, kind of the boy meets girl and kind of the love triangles and whatnot. But Love Complex I like because I had just really good characters and humor. Moving on, Heroic Age, which is also another kind of space opera, very much not exactly like Toward the Terra, but there were definitely similarities. But of course, Heroic Age had more of kind of the mecha battles. D Grayman, which was a nice little series. Unfortunately, the manga was still going, so it's one of those anime series that kind of ends on a who knows note. But once again, a bunch of people with special abilities that use them to fight basically demons and whatnot. Nice little series. Pumpkin Scissors, I thought was really interesting. Had a lot of high hopes for, and kind of at the very end, once again, just like D Grayman, kind of falls flat. But I definitely enjoyed Claymore because of just it's kind of a militaristic kind of anime. It's more down to earth to a point. You have Romeo and Juliet, which is a series I started watching, but then it got kind of long-winded. Of course, it's basically an anime rendition of the classic Romeo and Juliet saga. And then, of course, you have Devil May Cry, which is the anime series based off of the game, in which case the anime was okay. I mean, it wasn't great whatsoever, but it was interesting. Once again, I want to say towards the end, it just kind of got out of nowhere because it started following, I think, a little girl and her powers or something. I forgot. But Devil May Cry, I watched it. It was okay. And, of course, I want to mention, too, as a little thing, with Bleach and Naruto, Bleach, you might have saw the photo, the Banto crap. I didn't enjoy that. So, Bleach, the solid arcs, I, of course, loved. And, of course, Naruto, I actually stopped watching. I forgot at what point, but I stopped watching at, like, the 200 mark, like, after the Sasuke and Naruto fight, the big one. And basically just started watching it back up again when Shippuuden started because I can't take filler stuff that much. I think Bleach actually did have a bake a cake episode where they actually baked a cake. But that's really it for 2007. And once again, I'm just kind of going back and redoing little videos for these because these were articles I read up on low1health.com, and I've kind of nixed that and just kind of go to the video outlet on these. So As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time.